Thank you very much for making the time. Thanks for following along in my loosely organized agenda of what I'd like to cover. But this is an unusual segment for us. We're trying to look at how people lead all the time. And right now I see libraries providing services that I could have never imagined when I was a kid growing up. I also know they've got some challenges that, as a public citizen, I wouldn't want those kind of real great resources to be challenged. And then we've got some people that have actually got some really good suggestions on what others might be able to do to make sure that lab of creativity and all the stuff that happens there gets built on and on and on. So without further ado, if you could each just introduce yourself real quick, give a little bit of background on your role and why you believe so much in libraries, and then we'll get to some of the specifics. So Stephanie, if you want to kick it off, go right ahead.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Stephanie Murphy. I'm the Executive Director of St. Joseph County Public Library, which is located in South Bend, the surrounding area, including North Liberty and Lakeville. We serve a population of about 170,000 people. I think one of the really fabulous things about libraries, and one of the reasons that I love my work so much, is the long-term positive impact on communities and the quality of place in a community, and on individual personal lives of people who come into our building every day.
The number of people that are touched is off the charts.
It is, and we have about 60,000 visitors a month to our locations.
And they all leave a little bit smarter. Julie, how about you jump in?
I hope
so. Julie Wendorf, Director at the Crown Point Community Library. Also deeply involved in the Indiana Library Federation as advocacy co-chair and past president. What I love about libraries is very similar to Stephanie's, is that I love the way that libraries are experts in collaboration and partnerships, and the way that we create a quality of space with those partnerships in our communities and make them better places to work, live, and play.
Awesome. That nails it. Fonda, you chime in.
All right. Well, I'm Fonda Owens, the Chief Executive Officer at the LaPorte County Public Library. We have a service district of about 66,000 and a greater county area that we serve of about 110,000 people. So I think for me, the library has always been an opportunity. It's like this great opportunity for everybody. So I wanted to come here and work in LaPorte because we're heavily focused on community outreach and going out into the community, meeting people where they are, having people come in. And if you want to learn something, we can help with that. If you just need to relax, we can help you with that. If you want to meet a business client, we're here for you. So for me, that's really the thing, is like there's so much opportunity here, and we really truly are the place where you can be from almost the second you're born until you're ready to leave us in this world. There's just something for everyone.
That to me continues to impress me, is how much more a library is than, like I said, when I was growing up. You went to a library to study. You went to a library to look up books, encyclopedias, and a bunch of other books on whatever you needed to study for that particular class. And you ultimately went to the library to spend a little bit of time, and I think more often than not, go home. And to me, you've got, from young kids to families to professionals to seniors and every area in between, people are going to the library not to get a book and get the heck out, or do a little research and get the heck out. People are going to the library to learn, to develop, socially to connect. they're doing all kinds of programs well beyond books and a couple of videotapes. Maybe go in that same order, Stephanie, and talk about some of the really unique things that happen in a library that maybe not everybody's aware of.
Sure. I like to say that books are the expected, right? Everyone knows we have books at the library. Our mission really is connection. At St. Joe County Public Library, we connect people to information, resources, culture, and each other. So when you think about culture, we have an art gallery where we showcase local artists and their work. We work with the Fish Off and the Symphony to bring that culture into the building and make it accessible to anyone, regardless of ability to pay. We don't charge for our programs. We we just did a study on our business value in the community, which came out about $3 million in services to local businesses. That is using our databases maybe to make a marketing list or to attend one of our programs with other entrepreneurs to learn. And we work with the small business. We connect people with the Small Business Administration. How do you write a business plan? Things of that sort. I don't think people realize that libraries work in that entrepreneurial space so much. And then new technology, I don't think that's really new to libraries either. Books were new when libraries were first, like the printing press, right?
Yep.
Was a new technology when libraries began. So we offer 3D printing and recording studio space, which is also in that entrepreneurial space, because if you're a small business and you want to have a podcast or you want to create music, you can do all of that at the library too. So those are some of the things I think are really exciting that libraries do that people don't typically think of.
Yeah, I'm continually amazed that we're always looking for developing digital talent, and that digital could mean writing or taking photos or creating videos or doing podcasts or any of that kind of stuff. And to know, when I was a young guy, like, you weren't going to get even your hands on a photo camera of decent quality, and definitely not when you were in high school. The school wasn't going to give you that or give you access to that, and for sure wasn't at the library. And now to think these kids can go in and create this awesome podcast at each of your facilities, or go in and learn tools about their particular craft, whether it's 3D printing or all kinds of other hands-on things that I think are cool as heck.
And creative suites. I don't know about you, Julie and Fonda, but people can come in and use Adobe Creative Suites, learn how to use Photoshop in the library. And again, these are expensive tools that are available at no cost to patrons.
Yeah. And the typical person that wants to make up a flyer or something, or a really cool graduation remembrance in Photoshop, they're not going to go out and spend $75 a month to have Photoshop.
Right.
But they're going to go to the library. And the cool thing is then they go to all the other spots in the library that they might not have known about were you not to offer the Photoshop stuff. And the fact that you'll teach them, and they don't have to sign up for another $100 class to learn Photoshop and spend $80 a month to have it.
And just to nod to the kids, we have some fabulous play spaces here, and I know Julie and Fonda do as well. We understand that play precedes learning. It's a pre-literacy skill when you're out there pretending and talking about just the things that you see and do. So we have some really great places for families to come and hang out with their littles as well.
Awesome. Yeah, literally, like you said, it's as old as you could be to as young as you could be.
Yeah, which in the winter in this area, it's really nice to have an indoor space to come and play and hang out and get out of the house with your small child.
Yep. Julie, talk about some of the cool things happening in your building.
Sure. I think one of the best things I love about each one of our libraries is that we respond to our communities, right? What our community wants and where we're located in our communities. It is different for every library. So with the Crown Point Library's main location being right on the square in Crown Point, we have kind of a unique setting. And that really enables us to be a part of the synergy that happens on a very active square. We know when we're bringing in hundreds of thousands of people into the library every year that we're like Stephanie said, really playing a part in economic development. We know when we participate in a farmer's market on a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then later in the afternoon, you see the same families at the library for a couple hours in the afternoon, that we have significantly participated in keeping a family downtown for many hours on a Saturday. And so they've grabbed lunch somewhere, they've visited shops, and we're anchoring that as part of the square. So we really love that role that we play in that economic development. And we have been sharing that story a little bit more. I know Stephanie and Fonda and I are really pushing that story, because I think people don't expect that with libraries, that we play such a role in economic development and making our communities thriving places. And I think for us, part of that is our interactive play area, and that we change that theme every month, and it becomes a place where people want to go as a destination. We keep on having our visits to the library grow each year, and a lot of growth in our surrounding communities coming to visit our library. So I like to say we're a destination library. People want to come to see us, which is really exciting. So we're bringing people outside the community to Crown Point as well. But Stephanie mentioned art. I think that really goes to the idea of what's at the library besides what's expected, like the books. And that's really important story still, right? I mean, we're still having increases in our circulation. People still want the books. So I don't want to downplay books, but I think the sense of public space that libraries have is something very important. It's a kind of a dying thing in our communities, to have a place where you can exist that doesn't expect you to spend money, and it could be a place not only for just pleasure, but it could be somebody that's working from home but doesn't want to be at home, somebody that's doing an interview and needs a professional place to do it in a study room. We have so many nonprofits in our community that have their board meetings here in our meeting rooms, because they don't have the spaces in their organization. So there's lots of ways that we meet those needs for space. But I also think for us at the Crown Point Library, we have a unique situation where we house the Crown Point Adult Learning Center, which is an extension of workforce development. And so we have a center there that's open when the library is open, that serves the needs of people looking to engage in English language learning, or actually obtaining their high school equivalency diploma. So since 2017, since that center has opened, we've given almost 200 degrees out of that center here for people to have life-changing transformation, for them to be able to go straight into workforce development after they get their diplomas. So that's really exciting. I think a unique way that we serve our community, not only just in Crown Point, but regionally. We're the highest performing workforce development degree earning program in the area.
That's outstanding. And a lot of people would have no idea you're making that impact.
Julie, we also provide space. We work with South Bend Community School Corporation, and they do the educating, but we provide the space. And I got to go to their graduation this year, which was obviously heartwarming to see all the different ages getting their GED or their high school equivalent. But one of the stories they told was one person passed all of their tests in one day, had dropped out of school in 8th grade, hadn't done any other work except to go to the public library regularly and read. And that's how he managed to pass all of his. It was just a beautiful evening.
Yeah, I just had the opportunity to do that last summer too for the first time, and then we're doing it in a couple weeks too. We had 20 graduates last summer that came to walk through their ceremony. But what was really exciting is just a couple weeks ago, our organization hosted a Shark Tank for our ELL students. So they went through the whole 5-week program of economic development and business planning, and then did their Shark Tank presentations to a number of organizations, and they actually won money and stuff. So that was really thrilling to see those students that are just learning those English language skills to present, and some of them had businesses in their countries of origin. So they were already entrepreneurs, and they're looking to continue that, and the library was part of that story to make that happen.
That's
I'm going to steal that idea from you.
Fonda, how about your perspective? What innovative things? I've been in your space, the most recent update, but where you are. Tell me a little bit about what happens in that building.
Well, I am in the recording studio of the LPCPL Exchange building, And so this building has been open since 2021, and it was donated to the library, and we were able to renovate it into a makerspace. So, and makerspaces can be a whole variety of things. It can be recording studios, video studios, meeting rooms, for entrepreneurship, different things. But we worked a lot with the school corporations in our community and local employers when we were talking about developing this space and really trying to provide access to tools and skills that someone can upskill for better employment or a different job. So we offer, in addition to our studios and our meeting rooms, we have a sewing studio with industrial sewing machines, embroidery machines, standard sewing machines. We also have a heat press. We have vinyl cutters that can be used to make articles of clothing. And then on the upper floor, we have more industrial type operations that are smaller versions of some of the equipment that our local employer uses. So we have laser cutters, we have wood lathes, so you could make your own furniture if you want to learn that skill, how to turn things. We have a precision lathe, which will allow you to do metal work as well. We have 3D printers. We have different versions. We have a more complicated version, and we have a simpler version that we can take on the road. Other things, we have hand tools, recognizing what a hammer looks like. What's the difference between a flathead screwdriver and a Phillips screwdriver? We have all those tools, and we teach people how to use those things. And we've been fortunate enough to be supported by the industry in our community to help us purchase a lot of the equipment that we have in the space. So that's really what happens here. And we try to collaborate with our school corporations to get students who are exploring careers, because in education world now, students have to choose a pathway for graduation. They're on a track. They're learning this. So this really allows students to explore some of what that might be like in a more approachable way. And one of the things that I love most about what happens here is there is definitely an intergenerational exchange of knowledge. So it's one of the most
teaching the older people some things and vice versa.
Absolutely. So we have people who have downsized from their homes because they are getting a little older and they just don't need the three or four bedroom house situation. So when they move out of the house, they also move out of their shops and garages and basements, and they don't have room for the tools. So a lot of those people come here, and over the course of time, they have become volunteers teaching students the skills that are needed to run this equipment. So it's one of the most rewarding things that we have seen just sort of flow out of having this available for people in our community. The other thing that we have, and both Stephanie and Julie touched on this, is we're developing a business center at our main library, particularly at the main. So you can come and you can use the Creative Suites, or you can use Canva. You can print business cards. You can create a business portfolio. We've got comb binding. We've got laminating. You can create posters for your business or banners for your business. And so we have all of this available for people to use, and we do it at very low cost because in our community, those businesses no longer exist. Like, you remember the days when there was a Staple or an Office Max on every corner?
Yep.
Well, over the course of time, that has really changed and transitioned to online offerings. And I know personally, I've tried printing things from those services, and what you thought you were getting is not what you got.
And
Because the
you
margins
need
were
it
off, or the colors
tomorrow.
were off, or the
Yeah, and you gotta try to make it happen all of a sudden because you thought it was going to be just right.
exactly, and it's not. So you can come in and work with a staff member to help tweak your design, or they can teach you, they can get you started. If it's nothing too complicated, we will actually do that for you for an upcharge on the service. So, but other things that we offer that are really, truly, I think, deeply appreciated by many in the community is we have faxing. In addition to the print copy, we also fax because some situations require
Yeah.
faxing still. Everyone thinks it's old fashioned and outdated, but it's not. We
Deal with the
fax
government.
thousands and
You
thousands
need
and
to fax.
thousands of documents every year for our community.
Yeah.
Another thing that we do is free notary service. So I don't know if you've ever had to get a document notarized, but it can be quite difficult to find a notary. So we offer that service at all of our locations throughout LaPorte County, and it's a free service that we do for people. So I think those are things like we try to stay very connected to what's happening in the community with schools, with employers, with people who are entrepreneurial and creative, because we need that. That makes the community vibrant, right? So those are a few of the things. The other thing that we do that I really wanted to mention, and I know both Stephanie and Julie have this, is that we've also focused on the outdoor areas around our buildings to make those just as comfortable and open for having lunch with your friends. Just bring your lunch and sit there. Or if you want to work outside, you're tired of being inside all day, you can access the library's Wi-Fi in some of our outdoor seating areas. You can enjoy, we focus on native plantings so that you can be familiar with flora and fauna from Indiana. So that's also something that we do here.
To me, what's amazing is the library has just grown and grown and grown and grown and grown in terms of an anchor in the communities in which they serve, and the level of services, the abundance of offerings to people of all shapes, sizes, and kinds just continues to expand. And one would think, okay, well, that's awesome. This is great. What a wonderful institution. So let's go. Right now, there's some challenges where you each talked about community support and partnerships with the schools and how all that wonderfully works together. You got to have resources to keep those people employed and to keep the lights on. What challenges is the library facing right now that maybe not everybody knows about? And Stephanie, let's go ahead and we'll kick it off with you again.
Sure. So I'll let Julie speak a little bit more about the changes in taxes to libraries and all governmental units in the state of Indiana. But I think fundamentally one of the problems we face is the narrative nationally and on a statewide level that tax dollars are waste, fraud, and abuse, and that public servants are not really looking out for the common good. And Oliver Wendell Holmes, many, many years ago, more than a century ago, said taxes are the price that we pay to live in a civilized society. And I think we don't talk enough about what we get for our taxes, which is real benefit for our communities. And you get something for the taxes you pay. It is vibrant communities. It is parks. It is beyond your basic snow plowing, which you also, nobody wants to privatize and pay individually for the snowplow to come just past their little piece of property, right? We need snowplows everywhere. We need building permits so that buildings are safe. We need zoning. We need roads. We need all of these things that taxes pay for. But I also want, and I think it's true for most Americans, we want parks, we want libraries, we want river walks and public
Schools.
spaces, school, public education, all of these things that lead to really healthy communities. You can't do that simply by fundraising. You need the more structure that comes with governmental units and that comes from that sort of larger structure. And I like to say really relatably, I want to be Leslie Knope and not Ron Swanson. And I think that's true for most public servants, right? We are coming to work every day trying to make our communities better for everybody. And we have to shift that narrative around tax dollars.
And I can speak before Julie goes into it much deeper. I can just speak as a typical taxpayer. We don't really have much idea that anything is changing. We're just presuming, oh, well, I like schools and they're being supported, and I like libraries and they're being supported, and I like police and fire and they're being supported. We're presuming all of that is happening. A lot of voters are, or a lot of citizens are. And we don't necessarily know the machinations of how those resources get to you, or who does make sure the library opens the door every day. And
Right.
so maybe Julie, you could touch on some of the ways in which that stuff behind the scenes that's always provided this great resource is changing.
Sure. And I think Stephanie's comments on the disconnect with people understanding how public services are funded is part of the problem. It just has kind of faded away from our focus. And I think that we need to build that story stronger. And that's part of the reason why I think we love being able to be a partner with GreatNews.Life, is to share that great news of libraries in our region, in the area here in Northwest Indiana. And then statewide, of course, as well. But really, libraries have been having a huge amount of challenges in the recent years. Going back to 2025, we certainly had the SEA 1, which is the property tax reform, which really challenges libraries' budgets and the way that their budgets would grow typically by reducing the amount of money that they would receive for funding. Most libraries in the state of Indiana, majority of their funding is going to be their property tax. In the case of, like, for some of them, as much as 90%, right? And so not only was property tax impacted, but also local income tax, as it's already distributed at this time. So those libraries may also have as much as 30 or 40% of their library budgets made from local income tax. All these ways that both of those types of taxes will be distributed is changing, which is impacting libraries by not having the same type of funding that they would have. In addition to that, in 2026 with HEA, House Enrolled Act 1406, libraries were also limited even more than other governmental units by reducing their growth that is allowed by law to all units of government. Let's say they release it every year, and so the last couple of years it's been 4%. So what they said in this law was that the libraries could not grow their budgets more than 49.9% of that growth quotient. So artificially lowering, again, the way that library budgets can grow and meet the needs of their communities. And as Stephanie and Fonda can say, they know, they look at the bills, all our bills, just like our household bills, are increasing. So the cost of running a library continues to go as we pay the benefits and the salaries of our staff, but also paying our utility bills and other services that make what libraries do possible. So that certainly has been a definite challenge as we move through how libraries are funded. But I think as a whole, in the last budget session too in 2025, there was certainly a defunding of the state library in many ways, so that the ways that they serve and provide collaborative services statewide were impacted a lot. One of those very specific things was our internet connectivity grant, in that many libraries received a grant back from the state to help pay for that Wi-Fi that covers outside and inside our buildings. And for some libraries, that it was based on your community need level. So some libraries had as much as 90% of that bill come back to them. So all of a sudden, the cost of providing high-speed quality internet for their community is costing them money. So that was a huge hit in the budget cut. And then one that really is close to my heart is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. I know Fonda will too say this as well, is that whole line was taken out of the budget at the state level. So the investment that libraries are doing each and every day for early literacy, and the way that they were partnering with families and the Dolly Parton Imagination Library to make sure that books were in homes to create learners that were ready to learn and be ready for kindergarten, was reduced. So there's just been a lot of different fronts that libraries are struggling with in funding, and each one of those kind of compounded on the other has created a crisis for many libraries, especially for rural libraries that we're really concerned about, where the library might be the only place in town where you're going to get public Wi-Fi or to get access to any of the services they have. There's not a Starbucks or any other place in the community that is there, because the only thing in town is the library. So we're really concerned about that.
Well, and from as a citizen, it's not Starbucks' responsibility to provide basic services. There's things like the gaining of knowledge that happens through education, and libraries that, that's sort of one of the things we say we are going to make sure we have is a nice civilized society. So it's unaware to many probably of just how those resources happen. How do you see those challenges impacting you, Fonda?
One of the challenges, even in talking about it, is the complexity of how public funding works in our state.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you ask each of us, we would each have a different makeup of where our funding actually comes from. So, like there's a certain percentage that comes from property tax. There's a percentage that comes from local income tax. Some libraries don't get local income tax funding. We get license excise taxes. And see, pretty soon you start saying all these things, and
people's eyes gloss over.
Exactly. You're just like, how does this work? There's also some complexity in how libraries actually work in the state of Indiana. So that further complicates trying to explain exactly what a situation is and how you may be impacted. We do know that every governmental unit, and I think sometimes it's a surprise to many people to learn that our public libraries are indeed governmental units. Like there's this maybe idea in the back of people's minds that we're actually not-for-profit organizations, and we are not. We do receive taxes to operate. So when utility bills are higher for you, utility bills are higher for the library. When gas costs more, gas costs more. Because we all have multiple locations and we have inner library exchanges of materials that we are responsible for. So all of those things impact us in the same way. And so one of the things that I think about as we face these challenges is that we need a better way to explain what the realities are, because there's a bit of a disconnect between how it all works. And it has been difficult, I think, for the legislators as well, because some of the things have even surprised them, I think, in terms of how our economy has performed, how utility rates have gone up. Those are things that feel a little bit out of everyone's control right now. So how do you plan for that? Like, it's more difficult to develop a strategic sort of or map from 2026 to 2030 on what you might be doing, because in the last few years it's like it's like the Jack in the Box,
Yeah.
kind of like you're going along the path and all of a sudden the Jack in the Box pops up and you're like, what happened?
You're playing whack-a-mole.
The governor said he wants to cut property taxes even further. And so there's a lot of instability in the legislation. They're changing it every year. So to make those
Right.
long-term plans, which is a good practice on a business level, to make longer term financial plans, they're just so hard right now.
So I think, I've described it this way. Paying those taxes is a bit like your subscription to a streaming service. You feel good about it when you're getting something back that you feel is valuable to you. So how do we demonstrate our value in a way that makes people feel good about the amount of tax dollars that go to support the public library? So that is, I think, one of our particular challenges is how do we better tell that story, so that people feel like they really feel that they're getting high quality service for what is, in essence, a prepaid service to them.
Yeah.
So we're trying to work on that here, how we better tell that story, taking the stories that we have and showing how that equates into something very real and tangible in your life.
That would not have happened if not for the library. Period.
Exactly.
And I think that can be expanded to non-library users too, right? So if you never use the library, but you pay taxes, our employees by and large live in our communities. They spend money. The tax dollars don't disappear. When we do a building project, we're hiring a local contractor who gets that business. Those tax dollars are ending up in a local business, that local contractor who pays their employees, and those employees spend their earnings in the local community as well. So I feel like the narrative around taxes is that we pay taxes, they disappear. But that's not really what's happening. Those taxes, more than anything else, your local taxes get funneled back into your local community, into local jobs and local businesses.
You might not be in the season of your life as an older adult. I can use myself as an example.
Are you calling me an older adult?
No, I'm using
God,
me.
I had no idea.
I'm older than you. No, I mean, you might be in a period of your life or a season of your life where you're very busy. And so the stop at the public library might not be on the radar for you. But if you have grandchildren or if you have children, those early literacy skills that they learn from coming to a preschool story hour at the public library are very valuable, because those children, we know, we can show with data, are more ready to learn when they go to kindergarten, when they go to first grade. We do summer reading programs because we know that students lose skill in reading over the summer months. So while it may be framed in the context of it's fun to come to, it's really work to make sure that young people in our community retain their reading skills over the course of the summer, so that when they go back to second grade or third grade, they're ready to start reading in the classroom immediately.
We like to provide
good for everyone in our community.
We like those opportunities for kids to learn where they don't know they're learning. They're just having fun, but we know they're learning.
And all we as adults really care is people are learning. And to me, it's a little antithetical of what's the main impact that happens to people when they go into a library. They get smarter. Um, are we averse to just getting smarter? If the main thing is people go learn and they exchange with others, we're sure not shy of the need for more and more and more of that. I don't think everybody is as smart as they could be. So why sort of starve that resource that's a staple? It's a connection. It's a community value that we've always sort of subscribed to. And the main thing is schools, libraries, they're teaching people to be smarter. We know we need people to be smarter. Like, let's not mess with that.
And it's not often discussed, I think, Chris, that the return on investment that libraries present in their communities, both Fonda's library, Stephanie's library, like great libraries are the integral part of the fabric of their communities. They're providing services in the unique ways that we've already discussed today. But the amount of tax dollars that are spent for a family, a dwelling that goes to the library often is at the cost of a couple, at this day, the price of a couple hardcover books, right? It's not a huge amount of money in most cases. And the return on investment on those dollars that are collectively creating that work in the community far outweighs the personal cost that people invest in it. So I think that, making sure we share that return on investment and sharing all the different ways that our libraries are making impacts in their communities and being loud about it, I think is really important. I think that's really what kind of brought us to GreatNews.Life, is to share that great news. We're so busy often doing the work that we forget to celebrate the work and share the work and shout it out and say, look at what libraries are doing and making possible in your communities. And that's something that we're really trying to flip at the state level and at our individual communities, to make sure that people are aware of those partnerships and the collaborations where we make magic happen in our communities in ways that happen every single day in our buildings. You can't go into a library where you couldn't ask a staff member and say, what good thing happened here? And we don't have a story to tell about connecting somebody to the internet, or helping them find just the right book, or creating a love of reading, or being that place for seniors.
Helping them with their resume, or a million different things.
I mean, one thing I think is also invisible is the way that libraries are often the community hub that helps with the epidemic of senior loneliness, where those people are not feeling connected in our society. And they're coming either for knitting, crocheting, mahjong, working in Fonda's, exchange, feeling a sense of purpose, a sense of rhythm to their life, and that they have a place to go to meet with friends and to have an activity that's kind of already formed for them, so that they don't have to do that independently. It's really hard to make friends when you get out of school, right? Even when it
gets them out of the house.
Yes. Yeah. So, and to see those stories that we've seen, I know in my library, and I'm sure Fonda and Stephanie can say the same thing, stories that we hear of best friends that have formed in programs that they get to be friends and they're doing something together outside the library. That's also a magic. So the ROI, sometimes we can put an actual dollar value on that service that we provide for free. Other times it's intangible, like we've created a quality of life and a desire for people to stay in our communities and to create that magic of what makes Northwest Indiana special to live in.
It's awesome. Let's get to the third piece. What can people do about it? If they heard the first piece and they said, oh my God, the library is everything I knew it to be, and it's all of these other connection points that are, I think, foundational rocks for our communities. If they recognize that's really cool stuff, and now they're aware, hey, that's getting challenged in a way that it might not get to stay the same. It might not be the same asset if we don't rally around and protect it. What can people do? Where can they learn more? How do they find out a little bit more? How can they make an impact?
First and foremost, get a library card. Use your library card. Even if you don't want to come in, we all have ebooks. Ditch your Audible subscription. Will save you some money, and get your library card, because the more people use the library, the better it is for us when we talk to legislators. And then keep an ear open. Most of us will be going to the county council at some point in time, or whatever our local fiscal body is, particularly around local income taxes, write your legislators, and then you can also like try to help us shift this narrative when people go, oh, taxes. You could say, yeah, I know we don't like to pay taxes. I don't like to pay taxes any more than I like to pay my electric bill, but look what we get for it, and start helping us sort of shift the narrative around property taxes in particular.
I think there's lots of levels that people can make a difference in their libraries. First of all, I think Stephanie's example of just using the library and supporting it in that way is important. Most libraries have Friends of the Libraries groups. They can become a friend of the library. Some libraries have foundations. If they are thinking about investing in dollars into those foundations to help at the local level, they can certainly do that. I also think that that, as Stephanie noted too, is like being connected with your library. You know, there are many times that during this legislative session, so the last 2 times, that many library directors were having kind of letters to the community. We were trying to educate people on how these changes were impacting us and supporting the library. You can always come to a board meeting. They're public meetings, just like city and state, city meetings and county meetings. You're more than welcome to come and share what great news libraries have been to you in your life, and share that great news with us. We love to hear that. And then I think
most of the library board meetings are not contentious things where everybody's slugging each other. I think they're nice civil events, just like the library.
They are.
Most of them.
Most of them.
Or most of them.
Yes. So I think those are the local things, I think, that can happen at the state level. I think, you know, there's opportunities for people that want to support the freedom to read with in the state of Indiana, and a challenge that we've had in the last couple of years with book banning in the state of Indiana. You could certainly become a member of In Freedom to Read. And that's a website we have at IN Freedom, in Freedom. It's hard to spell because it's spelled wrong and it drives us librarians crazy, but it's INFREADOM to read.org, and you can become a member there and kind of be able to activate if you want to support us libraries in a positive way when we're feeling challenges. So that's a great way. But also there's always opportunity for people to support Indiana Library Federation too as a supporter. There's actually a role that you can do, a pretty low cost membership to support libraries at the state level. And that organization does a lot of advocacy for libraries at the state level. So I think there's really that local and state and even federal level of advocacy that can be done by individuals in the community. But I think Stephanie's comment, and this is something we've been talking about at Indiana Library Federation a lot, is everyday advocacy. And when you hear that conversation, that talk about, you know, taxes or whatever, we start making those conversations turn to, but I want to have these services. I appreciate these services, and kind of changing those conversations to be more positive and saying, hey, I understand that, you know, taxes aren't fun to pay, but I appreciate the services I get for it. And having those conversations in everyday situations with our neighbors, our family, our friends, help to drive that conversation back to there is a connection between the taxes we pay and the services and quality of life that we have. And I think that's really important.
And reminding people, I think, just there's some staples you want in your life. You want your schools to be excellent. You want the streets to be very safe. You want the fire department to be there on the spot. You want your libraries to provide the place that they do for knowledge transfer and all the other exchanges. And that's one of those staples that I don't think you might want to mess with. Fonda, any other advice that you would have of how folks can learn more or engage if they want to positively impact the direction of libraries?
Well, I think come talk to us.
Okay.
If you have a question about how it works, you know, just come talk to us. We all have ways that we can be contacted. You or our staff members, you know, ask questions, because it's hard to know what other people are thinking. So when you ask us or when you have a conversation with someone, that's very helpful. Sharing information and giving input, receiving input is extremely important. And I think it's important to talk to people. If you have a great experience about the library, talk to stakeholders, and by stakeholders, I mean county councils, county commissioners, or your state and national elected officials. Talk to those folks at a time when they're not overwhelmed by, they're down at session and they've got 1,000 things to consider. So it's hard to get their attention when they're super busy. But talk to them when they're in your community. If you see somebody at a pancake breakfast, ask your legislator what they think about public libraries in the state of Indiana. Talk to people when they have a chance to really, they're more relaxed. They have the opportunity to really pay attention to what you're saying. Because that's what when you're having a conversation with someone, that's what you want, right? You want to feel like you've been heard and listened to. And I think they can listen better when they're less busy. So take all those opportunities. If you have a great experience at your library, share it on social media. And like Julie said, come to a meeting, see what we're about. As governmental units go, I think libraries are one of the more transparent. I mean, it's hard to be fully transparent, but it's our goal to be absolutely fully transparent. So come to a meeting, ask questions. And I think that's one of the best things you can do.
And it's an election year, and who we elect matters when it comes to all of these things. So there will be candidate forums coming up. Ask those questions about, do you support your schools, your parks, your public libraries? And knowing who you're voting for on a local level and on a state level really does matter more than I think people realize when it comes to funding.
If I had to sum up the third part, I would have to say, get informed, which interestingly is basically the purpose of the library in the first place. And I think that's get informed of where libraries fit in the financial structure of funding. I think get informed about what's happening in your local library, because it's a heck of a lot more than you probably think it is. But also get informed of how those two things are related. We all may sit back in our thing and say, gosh, yeah, those taxes are terrible. Cut them for sure. And then if somebody just said to you in your household, okay, just cut spending by 10%, that's great. But I'm certain you or your mate are not going to agree on every single 10% that's got to get whacked. And hey, there's cutting meat, and then there's cutting some extra expenses. And to me, I think folks need to be aware that the overall premise is lower property taxes. That's good, but if you're going to replace that with a referendum and local income taxes and safety fees or wheel taxes, I think folks want to know, if you just gave me $100 and then I'm going to pay $250 in associated fees to make up for that $100, I'd rather just not have the $100 back. And I think you each have done a great job making that point. We'll include in this link to everybody's Facebook page, library, all that kind of stuff. If there's other advocacy pieces or awareness pieces that you want us to include, we'll include any of that in a write-up. You can email me all that stuff. But from my standpoint, thanks for continuing to be everything I knew you were as a kid, everything I knew you were as a parent to all my kids who are grown up, and all the things that you are that I didn't understand all of them. And I think if people take that premise of libraries and say, hey, these are foundational educational institutions, and we need people to be smarter, and we need people to connect more, and we need to give people an opportunity to learn what maybe they don't have the resource to learn without it. And this is one of those foundational things that have got to get protected. So thank you each for sharing a little bit of time with us. Again, go libraries, go books, go reading, go learning, go crafting, go drafting, go do all the kind of stuff that you're doing. And I appreciate a heck of a lot you guys spending the time with me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Go read. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.